Hi all, Janetta Barry back again. And first of all, thank you for joining us on today's training. We've loved doing it and it means a lot to have you. And so that's why we're here now to give you a surprise bonus. We've made this additional quickie training for you and hope you get a good laugh from it. You see, there's a huge mistake consciousness professionals make when writing about their personal journeys, and Lorraine is here to help me talk about it.
Yes, Janetta, I call it an occupational hazard. Somebody works as a helping professional. Your first reaction is to be helpful, comforting, nurturing, encouraging. But in order to be effective at story writing, you need to turn that part of you off. You need a little tough love.
Yes, so you're saying that in turning it off, you have to do what? What would one do?
Be objective. Just be a neutral observer of your experience. You're not talking to your client and telling them
what to do.
In
fact, that's a very good phrase, talking to your client, because when you talk to somebody, they don't feel involved, they feel talked to.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I'm getting, you're saying talk with them by sharing your emotions?
Yes, absolutely. And also, remember, movie in the mind. Think of yourself as a camera and a sound recorder, and you are making a movie of your experience. You went back in a time capsule, and you're back to where you were in this experience, and you are transporting your reader into your body and mind. And you're not jumping ahead and telling them what you've learned since then, or the mistakes you made.
How you righted it, yes.
Yes.
How to make it all right. In fact, you wrote it earlier by saying, for a story to involve you emotionally, there has to be trouble.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And we tend to think as a professional in this industry, it's about people understanding that it's not about the trouble, it's about everything's going to be all right. But that's when people feel talked to instead of with, and the emotions are left out. So it is about sharing the trouble so they can identify.
It's sharing the trouble and making them feel your pain.
Yes.
If I don't feel your pain, then I'm not going to be able to feel your release.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, you and I were playing around with how so often a person in our industry starts writing their story and how stereotypical they become. So, I mean, this is a parody I was working with you earlier, which was somebody's first draft of a story where they try and talk to people and show that they've got over things and they're not engaged emotionally about the challenge. Would be something like, I was abused psychologically and physically, but I decided not to be a victim, and I decided to be strong and didn't give up. So I meditated and said affirmations, I worked on myself, and I healed my body and erased all my negative experiences. And now I'm this wonderfully positive person, and I'm going to tell you all about the lesson I learned so you can do it too.
Yeah, there's something missing in that story.
Apart from the fact that it's all about erasing negative and only being positive. But that last sentence says, and I'm going to tell you about the lesson I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though this is a parody, it isn't so far from what we see out there. If you look on the web, if you see a lot of books and stories and blogs written by consciousness professionals, they sound like that. Once upon a time, it worked. But now if you write like that, you just sound like everybody else. And you're not engaging your readers or your viewers emotionally.
As you were saying, it's not an experience. And when you read it, it's about being able to see that movie in your mind and feel the author's emotions.
Yes, when you're watching a movie, and this is a movie that involves you emotionally, that inspires you, you don't hear someone whispering to you, this is the mistake I made. You, the viewer, may be seeing it, but you don't have the writer telling you, hey, this is the lesson you're supposed to learn from this. Nobody's watching over your shoulder and instructing you and telling you what to see. They're just showing you.
For sure. So you and I were talking earlier about how to sum it up in one word.
Well, one word would be adrenaline.
Yeah.
Adrenaline, and that adrenaline, by the way, is what's missing in that little segment
that I read out.
Yes, and it's missing in a lot of first drafts I see, and in a lot of stuff that's out on the web. Now, you may think of adrenaline as a stress hormone, but it's also the attention draw hormone. Without adrenaline, we stop paying attention. Without attention, we don't feel engaged. We don't feel involved. We don't care.
We don't feel alive.
No, we don't live fully without adrenaline. And the more attention we pay, the more fully alive we are in our experiences. Hence, if life were all light and sweetness, we'd have no reason to stay awake. And if you write something that's all nicey, then it's boring.
Yeah. In fact, it's just theory. It's not practically able to be practically taken on. It can only theoretically be taken on.
Yes, and as we've talked about, when you are teaching people an emotional lesson, you can't give them step by step the same way you teach somebody how to bake a cake.
Or ride a bicycle.
Yeah. It's an emotional, you have to actually give somebody an emotional experience vicariously.
Exactly. And that is why writing in your niche is going to bring the people who identify with you and your story because they've had similar.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why being more emotionally engaged is so important for that person to say, I'm reading my story. This is my story that somebody else has also experienced and they've got through it and they're going to be able to help me to get through it as well. And I can't wait to contact this person.
Yes. Yeah. Because they're not only are you letting them know that you got through it, but they're actually seeing a movie in their minds of you going through it, and vicariously they're experiencing some of your change. So just in reading your story, you've already started to help them.
Exactly. And then that feeling of already being helped makes them, well, you've basically gained a client instantly. They're behind you, they're with you, they want to be with you. And there's no better way in getting out there than from that authentic place of your story. And it's so difficult to do on your own.
And yet at the same time, it's very, very simple. And maybe because if you're a life coach, a motivational speaker, you are so used to being encouraging and positive and upbeat all the time that it becomes difficult for you to temporarily turn that part of you off so you can be a good story writer.
Well, also the vulnerable story writer, because that puts you into vulnerability and that feels horrible to begin with. And that's where we train people to learn the value of vulnerability. I remember when I had to go into vulnerability with my story, it was the most scary place. And yet that's what's brought me my most clients is because I'm a human being. They hear my humanness. They don't see me as Superwoman. They see me as them. And then they see me as having overcome, which means that gives them the insight to know they can do it too. And I'm the one that can help them do it.
Because they've seen your process.
Yes. And because I'm real and authentic.
Not simply because they see you now this really together.
Yes, up on a pedestal.
Yeah, I got my stuff together. Yeah, I got it all together. And I'm an example and I'm the guru.
Unreal. It's really unreal.
So. And even if it were, if you're going to give somebody a vicarious experience, you have to go through all the steps of the process.
I think the big thing about this quickie, which I've really enjoyed as well, is at the end of the day, it's so difficult to put this vulnerability and write in this way on your own. It's like having your personal coach. I mean, here's the thing. We understand as life coaches how important it is for somebody else to have a life coach. And it's the same with writing your story. As a life coach writes their story, they require a wordsmith coach and a writing coach and story coach. And that's what this is about. So we're really looking forward to having you join us on this journey of bringing out the most authentic, most beautiful, and most inspirational you in your story to be able to become attractive to the most meaningful clients that you can find and who will find you in the universe.
And I want to just leave everybody with this piece of advice, and I think it's pretty funny. And that is, if you want to stand out from a gazillion other people in your field who are writing their stories, turn off the life coach in you just long enough. And if you catch yourself being a life coach, stop it. Just be on the lookout. No life coaching allowed while I'm writing my story. I am a camera.
Yeah, that's great. So if you're wanting to really get out there and be meaningful, this is a very good opportunity to get your story masterfully coached and out there. And we look forward to seeing you very, very soon. And as you can see, the button on this page will help you to get started. And Lorraine and I are inspired to meet you and learn about you. So go hit that button. Let's get in contact with you. Can't wait to meet you as we both send you lots of love.
Bye. Bye-bye.